the audience of our global webinar on innovative universities. And it looks like this is the first time, right, when we travel to the South America. And we are very honored. I will tell about our speaker a bit later, but I just want to remind colleagues about the rules of our webinar. So we have, each webinar is 60 minutes. We have 15, 20, 25 minutes presentation, and then we have a discussion where webinar hosts or moderators, Dara Melnik, management consultant, and me, Isaac Flumin, we try to engage our speakers and audience into the discussion. We have our webinars every 2 weeks on Thursday. Sometimes we change time because of guests from Asia. And the most important thing probably is that our webinars are recorded, almost unedited, and they are on YouTube. And now we have a very interesting library of the cases of the innovative universities around the world. We are very grateful to our steering committee that recommended us, chaired by Professor Phil Albach, a famous researcher from Center of International Higher Education at Boston College, US. And next slide, please. And the steering committee recommended us to include the case of University of Campinas into the webinar program. And this is not very typical for our webinar. We usually discuss university as a whole, but sometimes we go to innovative part of university, like we discussed University College of Freiburg, one faculty within the old, well-established university. And it's kind of similar today because we are going to talk about a very specific program within one of the well-established, very popular research-intensive universities in Brazil, University of Campinas. And I'm very happy to have today with us Professor Marcela Nobel, who is an outstanding physicist and at the same time is outstanding university leader. And he was a rector or president of University of Campinas. And during his tenure there, he continued to strengthen this university and introduced quite a few innovations. And I hope Marcelo will mention some of them and tell us a bit more about the university. But today we'll focus on one specific program that this university launched. And without further ado, I would ask Professor Nobel to start his presentation, and then we'll go into the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Dara, for the invitation. It's great to be here. I hope you can hear me well. Please let me know if you don't hear.
Yes, everything works.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for the invitation. When I was invited to give this talk, I was thinking to how I would make to present such a quantity of information in about 15, 20 minutes, but it's always the challenge that we face every time. So I will talk about a little bit more about this program that is called ProFIS. And it's a novel approach for access and success in Brazilian higher education. And I believe it's quite interesting and innovative for all over the world. So let me start. I will talk about some affirmative actions, ideas, the challenges, the perspectives, but I will initially start with the national context. I was asked as well to give a really rapid perspective of the education, of the higher education in Brazil. So it's rather new. This is the most amazing thing. The first universities are from the 1930s, so they are very young universities, and we have yet limited coverage. Only about 20% of the 18 to 24 years old age cohort are enrolled in universities. The public education is free, completely for free, but it enrolls only 23% of the students in higher education. So as you can see, in this plot, I try to show you here now in 2022, we have 9 million students enrolled in universities, and the blue line are the private ones, while the red one are the public ones, which are free. So we have most of the students in private higher education, and the public universities, which are research intensive, have a lower quantity of enrolled students. In any case, I will try to show you the example of my university, which is a public state university in the state of São Paulo in Brazil. So it's rather young. It's 58 years old now in 2024. It was founded in 1966, and it has now 6 campuses. We have about 34,000 students. And an interesting characteristic is that we have almost half of the students which are graduate students. So it's a really research intensive university. We have hospitals, we have all the characteristics of a comprehensive research public university. I was the rector, as mentioned before, from 2017 to 2021. We made a lot of new initiatives. I tried to condensate them here. An international hub for sustainable development, a sustainable campus, a lot of ideas, but of course I will not have time to show them all. We try to give a strong support to the human rights during my tenure, and we created an observatory of human rights, and we created several initiatives, specifically executive directorship for human rights, but I will not talk about this now. Maybe I can do it in another opportunity. I wanted to discuss a little bit more about the undergraduate programs and the question that we had at that time that was extremely, and it is yet, extremely difficult to get into the university. Being a public university completely for free with a good quality, you can imagine that we have typically more than 70,000 applicants for only 3,000 spots. So less than 5% of the applicants can get into the university. So it's very hard to get in, and therefore we had a problem that everyone who was in a very good high school, in a very good quality, lower, basic education, had more chances to get into the university. That was some kind of crazy thing about the system. So people that went to a private high school had more chances to get into a public for free university. So we tried to change these perspectives. And when I was the vice president for undergraduate programs back in 2010, we realized that almost 60% of the public high schools of the city of Campinas, which is the city of the university, never had a single student entering into a public university like Unicamp. So we have this crazy situation. So what we decided to do in 2010, it was a very strong and high discussion that we created. It was the creation of this ProFIS, which is an interdisciplinary higher education program. The idea, my initial idea, was to make a kind of liberal arts college in the university. It was not possible, so we tried to make a kind of hybrid system. So we restricted the students to the city of Campinas in a pilot program. So we have, I will show you the data. We have all the public high schools of the city of Campinas. We designed a 2-year programs that invited the students, the best students of each single school of the city of Campinas, to enter directly into the university. So after these 2 years, they can follow the studies in the university. I will go into the details now. So the idea of ProFIS was to establish improving and developing the student skills, including the critical analysis, the abstract reasoning, teamwork, the soft skills necessary and interesting that we have in every single liberal arts kind of program. And the idea was to make a broad perspective. So the students have now languages, studies, English, Portuguese, literature. They have mathematics, statistics, humanities, and arts. So they have the planet Earth, for example, the climate change. They have a human body. They have physics, chemistry, biology. And of course, also is the only program of the university where a research initiation in a research project is mandatory. After they conclude these 2 years of ProFIS, they can enroll in any other course, the traditional courses that the university provides. So for example, physics, philosophy, medicine, wherever they want to go, they can apply to go directly without going through an extra entrance examination. So we decided to ask for each program to give a number of places for students from ProFIS. And finally, everyone was engaged in the project. So for example, physics gave 5 spots for ProFIS students. Medicine gave 10 spots for ProFIS students, and so on. So after the students finish these 2 years, based on the merit, based on their grades, they are classified, and the first place student can choose any traditional course of the university, and so on. Then can migrate to the traditional programs if they want, of course. So this is exactly the idea. And we decided to make the admission based on the performance of the students on the nationwide high school examination. So the idea was to bring a different profile of students into the university. So these students are really students with poor background, just by choosing students from different regions of the city. I will show you some results. So this is the city of Campinas. Unicamp is located here in the north, and we have now schools in all the city regions. And depending on the region, of course, is a poorer region of the city or not, the students come from this background. And just by making this, we have this plot shows all the applicants are each dot here is an applicant, and the filled dots are the students that were finally chosen to the program. As you can see, this is in the X here. We have the average score of the school, so we have a strong heterogeneity in the schools. There are very good schools, there are very bad schools, but it doesn't matter. We called at least one student per school. Even if the school was really bad school, the student can be a good student in a very bad school. So this is the idea. Yes, Isaac.
Yes, thank you. Sorry for interruption, but just one question for understanding.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you decided to take students based on their nationwide university exam. But
not university, the high school exam.
High school exam. Yeah, you have combined this thing, right?
Yes.
But
yes.
And what was the system before that? I thought that in Brazil it was always the case for public universities to accept students based on this exam.
No. In our university, we have an independent vestibular, which is called vestibular, which is an entrance exam that our university makes. So it's a specific one because we are very, very much competitive, and therefore it's not possible that the national exam can make a good choice for the profiles of students that we have. So our university has its own exam. Just to mention one number, for example, in medicine, we have 350 candidates per spot at the university. So it's extremely competitive, and therefore we have our own exam. So let me keep going just to show you the final results, which are really, really nice. So you can see here that on the right here side, we had the previous students that came through this entrance exam, that we have the vast majority white, which is this blue 76%, 74%, are white students. And just by making this choice of, if you want geographical quotas, we managed to almost triple the number of Black students, the native Brazilian students, that we call mulatto, which are the mixed race students. So we managed to have the average of the city of Campinas in terms of race just by having these geographical quotas. For example, the income of the families, I will show you in this other plot. 80% of the students have a minimum per capita family income lower than one minimum wage. So there are a profile of students that never got into the university before. They are really, really poor, and therefore, of course, they need some extra help in terms of financial aids. The instruction level of the father, just to mention one other example, just by mentioning you can see here in the previous exam, we had less than 10% of students which were first generation in the university. And now half of the students, 86% of the students, 86% of the students are first generation students at the university. So the program is extremely good in order to have this affirmative action or social inclusion profile. So we managed to do that, but by giving special scholarships that were created in order to have them stay at the university. We provided food and transport support. We have a team of social assistants with continuous support for these students, full medical support, an army of TAs helping on daily basis to support students, and so on. So in order to keep these students coming and having success in the university, it was really important to have this support system together with this program. So the idea was to have a new profile of students at the university, mostly from all of them from public high schools, most of them first generation of students of the university. The problem is that, it adds 2 years to any traditional degree. I think it's a positive thing, not a problem. But of course, it was a challenge in order to convince the university at the beginning, showing that this program would deliver and will be interesting for everyone. All the objectives for social inclusion were fulfilled. The majority of students are first generation students. 42% are black or mixed race, what we call pardo or mulatto in Portuguese. And we have a very complex and different profile of the students into the university. So with this, we managed to have a new wave of social inclusion here at Unicamp. After that, when I was a rector, we implanted also the social and the racial quotas here at the university. There was a strong movement from the students, and we managed to establish a racial quotas at the university. And finally, as a result of this movement as well, we managed to have also the inclusion of indigenous Brazilians. So this is a very nice picture of a young indigenous Brazilian, which is in the border between Brazil, Venezuela, and Colombia. And we are now going there to make our entrance exam to the university. And therefore, we have now a strong diversity of indigenous people, of Black, mixed race students, all started with these ProFIS students. So you can see, just to finish, here the evolution as a function of the year in 2003 to 2023, how we managed to change the profile of the students of the university, not only from the case in the case of race, that we are including more and more mixed race and Black and indigenous students that were absent from the university before, but also you can see here clearly an improvement or a growing number of poorer students at the public university. Was finally our main goal, together with a very interesting general education program. So this is the idea. The ProFIS is an ongoing project which is continuously being evaluated. It has now more than 12 years. It represents a new model and a paradigm in Brazilian higher education that in principle, I believe it could be adapted in other universities, in other contexts, in other countries. So the idea is to, it gives a step towards a diversification of higher education in public universities and promotes social inclusion with merit. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you. Very interesting. I think that, Dara, this is the first time our webinar is going deep in the discussion of inequality, diversification, etc. We didn't avoid these issues, but it just didn't. They just didn't come up. Now I think that when we discussed Asian University for Women, we touched this issue because the vice chancellor of this university told us about girls from, first, this is an institution that helps to prevent gender discrimination, but also they work with girls from low-income families.
And from underprivileged societies.
Yes.
Not just in terms of economic privileges, but also politically underprivileged, etc.
Yeah. But here we probably have a chance to dive deep into this issue, because it's really the issue where we have a lot of conflicts around. And okay, may I clarify a few things? Just this very important stage of entering the university. So essentially you created a quota because so those students that you accepted through ProFIS, would not enter the university without this program.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. But the quota is different. This is, I think, by chance, I believe it was a really, the smart move. It's a geographical quota. So we are giving opportunities to every single public high school of the city of Campinas. And this is one point of, discussion. So we are just focusing in one city of Brazil, which has thousands of cities. But of course, it's an idea that could be developed in principle. I thought that it would be developed in many other places. So we created a quota for public high schools of the city of Campinas. That's correct. And just by doing that, we are including the population from that regions. And this is what is the most important. So we call the best student of each single school a public high school of the city of Campinas. That's the point. And even if the school is really bad, they provide very bad education, the best student there has a chance to get into the university. This is the idea.
Very interesting. And definitely, as all positive discrimination, it has a reverse side. So students from wealthy families, from private schools, got even less chances to be accepted at your university. So was the resistance from let's say middle class or upper middle class?
Oh yes. Yeah. Not only that, we had you are from the university. The university is really reactive to any change. So we had a lot of problems within the university first to convince colleagues that this would be a good idea. They made a lot of they said that these students would be a second-class students within the university, that would be discriminated, that the program has 2 extra years and so on. Well, finally, after the program started, the students are really proud. They wear shirts of ProFIS. They are proud of being ProFIS students. This is very nice. So they are everything but not discriminated. And from the point of view of society, yes. But this was another interesting move that I think that we made at the time. We are not using any place that is already available. We are using the places from dropouts. So there are, in any course, we have dropouts, which are normal from any universities, and we are using mostly that place. It's the only place that we don't use that is in medicine. That almost in medicine the dropout rate is 0. So they made 10 extra places for ProFIS students. So that's the only where we didn't make that. So we finally found a way also to optimize our number of places at the university. So the program at the end of the day turned out to be really round.
Mm-hmm. That's and the second question I have about, again, to clarify about these 2 years. Yes. So frankly speaking, when I first read about ProFIS, I thought that it's just more intensive. I thought that you just add to additional programs a few courses, how to behave, what to read, to build the cultural capital. But in this case, you add 2 years. It's a lot. So it's and standard program is 4 years, right? So yes. It's 6 instead of 4. This is. I'm sure that it requires 2 years. Why it was not? Maybe it sounds stupid, but it's expensive.
Yes, Well, let me answer that. First of all, the 2 years was not by chance. We have a specific kind of degree here that we call sequential degree, that after 2 years, they have a certificate. So they have already a certificate for higher education, even if they just make the 2 years and not make the traditional courses. So this is an important question. They can leave the university with a certificate for 2 years study. But the problem, and the most important problem that I didn't mention at all yet, is that many of these students come with a really gap in their basic formation. They are coming from really poor backgrounds and really bad high schools and previous level education. So sometimes they don't even know how to make a basic operation in mathematics, for example. They don't know how to, really basic, like a rule of three in mathematics. So some really basic mathematics. And so they are giving the chance in 2 years to fill this gap that they have. And sometimes it's huge gap. And they are so smart and so good that even in a limited time, which is 2 years, some of them manage to fulfill 8 years of being back in mathematics or language or whatever. So they are really supported by a teams of TAs and teachers. And these 2 years, in my opinion, are fundamental to put them into the same level of the students that enter into this very usual system. And the most important part I didn't mention also is that we are evaluating that. And after these students get into a traditional course, in the normal course, they perform as well as any other student that got into the system in a traditional entrance exam. So they are really good. They just were born in a place where they didn't have the chance before, and therefore we are giving the chance. And I think that 2 years is a good proxy. Just to mention one number, as I mentioned before, to get into medicine, for example, 350 students per spot. Many times, the students make 2, 3, 4 years of preparatory courses to get in. Sometimes the students are spent 4 years to get into the university just by making a prep. So I think that 2 years within the university, environment, it's really good for their maturity. Many of the students get into the ProFIS saying that they will try medicine, but after 6 months here in the university, they discover that there is a possibility in nursing or in audiology or in pharmacy or even in social sciences. Why not? They discover and they mature within the university. It's really great.
Dara, please.
So Kronos must be thinking about Isaac and I, because I have 3 questions pertaining to the matter of longer undergraduate education. The first one goes like this. So you said that it's 2 years, partially because there is a certificate option that students they can receive a certificate. And I assume that it's not you who came up with that idea, but a quality assurance body. So imagine that requirement wasn't there and that you could give your students a certificate for them to have some kind of higher education after 1 year of study. Would you do that, or would you still keep the 2-year-long program?
I will still keep it 2 years. I have many points. I already mentioned some to Isaac before. Of course, related to some time to really reach a level that they can follow up in the different levels and different programs. But I would say this is another question that I think that is really important. In Brazil, we have a really, really rigid system. So whenever you enter in a program, if you want to change, you have to start over again. So if I go to physics and then I realize that I prefer chemistry, I have to start over and make the entrance exam for chemistry again. This is crazy for a young student, 17 years old, 18 years old. They are not mature enough in order to choose a career for the rest of their lives. Most of the people get frustrated, depressed. It's very hard. And, there is a social pressure, the family pressure, and so on. So I believe that these years, maybe with 17, 19, 20 years old, they are more mature to choose. And they spend these 2 years in the university environment. So this gives them an extra maturity. So they can choose properly, and the dropout rates are lower, and the psychological aspects are also better. So I would say, in my opinion, that most of the students, of course, we can provide that because it's important. In Brazil, we have this important support system. We have fellowships, we have scholarships. Many of these students, they have the pressure of their families to go to the market to work, because the families need their work force to survive. So we provide good scholarships in order to make this happen. Otherwise, it would be, of course, impossible. They should go to work and help their families and so on. So this is context-based. It's really important. But I think that this is my point. We should have this diversity in the higher education system. Students that really need lower times, more.
Marcelo, we believe you're frozen. Is the issue on Marcelo's side?
Yes, it happens, I think. But look, we can talk a bit. I hope.
We can.
Yeah, I hope he will reconnect.
Okay. Here.
Your picture is frozen. Maybe you need to reconnect. Yeah.
Hear me? Sorry.
Welcome back.
Yes, we got you back.
I don't know what happened. Sorry.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
You were talking about diversity in higher education.
Yes, I think that the diversity in higher education is really important to accommodate different perspectives, different profiles, different students that need different things. And this is, I think, the best part of the ProFIS. It adds an extra layer of innovation and possibilities in the higher education environment.
We actually had a question about dropout rates, which you have already answered. So it's one of the Q&A questions for today. My second question actually connects your university to Asian University for Women. They also have a pre-UG, pre-undergraduate program. However, at AUW, a student is placed at a specific level in the program according to their competences when they enter the institution. So you might be going through 2 semesters of the pre-UG program, you might be going through 4 semesters, and there are multiple options that students can go through. Now, on the other hand, you mentioned that ProFIS students tend to feel program pride. They're proud that they are a part of this initiative. So again, if you could choose, would you switch to placing students according to their level of knowledge and skills when they enter the program? Or would you still maintain the holistic 2-year experience for them to be in the same cohort and for them to be this strong, tight-knit group?
Yes, I would say that I will keep the same way it is. I think that finally, with some changes and adaptation, the program ended in a very well-rounded form, and it works. So as I mentioned, the students are proud, they form a link, a bondage, and it's more interesting of that. This is why it's called interdisciplinary, because after the program, they go to different places and they keep being friends. So they have the chance to be in the same university with different backgrounds and different programs and different projects. So this brings an extra layer of interesting perspectives from the university life. So I would keep it the way it is. It's quite interesting, but of course, if there is a student that is really amazing, it's really, so there should be a way in order to make a shortcut if he or she would like to do. But I think the program is well designed, and they are able to make some in the program that we have space to make some alternative disciplines, or if they want to advance another program, they can. So if he is already or she is already decided to go to physics, they can eventually already start making the basic physics or the calculus or whatever they want. So they are allowed to do that. They are full university students. So this is the something that they can do.
And finally, a question from a normative dimension. So you said that 6 years is not a bad thing, that longer education is actually, it can be viewed as something good. And I do tend to agree, longer education seems like a privilege. And we know that some students don't even go to universities to enter the labor market as soon as possible and then start earning money for their family, which is something that plagues potential male students more frequently than female, but is a problem for pretty much every society. So in the ideal world, how long do you think undergraduate education should be? Now we have the standard of 3 to 4 years, depending on where you are in the world. No one truly knows why it's 3 to 4 years. And there have been multiple attempts to make it shorter, and some students, especially in American and I hear German universities, make it longer for themselves, not rushing, enjoying the process, doing other things at the same time. What's your take? How long should undergraduate education be?
Well, if you ask most of the people that went to a comprehensive, very interesting university, that many people would say that they were the best years of their lives. Isn't that true? So usually it's a good perspective to be in an environment where you are challenged by intellectual problems. We have friends, and you have a very interesting age. And that's something that everyone would like to keep as much as possible, of course. But the circumstances of life change. I would say that I like the European perspective of 3 years. I think it's a good time if you want to stay 3+2 or 3+3. That would be an interesting thing to do. I think that 2 years is too short. I would say that it takes 1 year to adapt and to change your mind and to really grow in terms of maturity and growing intellectually, and then having 2 extra years to really go through the basics. And then if you want to stay 2 or 3 years longer, I would say that's a good. It's my personal opinion, but I think it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Again, I want to discuss a bit this in international context and in historical context, but maybe a bit later. Could you tell a bit? You mentioned in one of the slides the structure of the program, but again, the main problem, as I know from studies, different studies of educational inequality, is not academic preparedness itself, but not low, but very different cultural capital. lack of vision for the future. So, in fact, what you are doing in these 2 years, you are not just training people to know more. You change their position regarding their own future. How do you do that?
Well,
what exactly is done to transform this boy or girl from these slums? Let's say, I never been in Campinas, but I saw slums in Sao Paulo or Rio de Janeiro. So do you have people from there? And
yes.
So what you do with them to make them, let's say, traditional students?
Well, let me just exemplify your question with one specific example. So as I mentioned before, we gave them a fellowship, a full fellowship, which is equivalent to a minimum wage in Brazil. One of the students in the first cohort, in the first year, after we paid the scholarship, he simply disappeared. And then we have people which are social assistants that call there. So we made the approach of almost like a school. After 3 days that the student didn't show up, we called the family and we called, what's going on? What happened? And so he said, well, I received the first fellowship and I decided to buy a cell phone, and therefore I didn't have the money for going by bus to the university. So I spent everything in a cell phone and I didn't have money to go. So we managed to, fix the situation because, this is a priorities and life-changing opportunity. And so we try to bring the parents and say, look, your son, your daughter can go to a work, can go to work. They are smart. It's possible they can help the family now, but they will help much more if they have this extra formation by Unicamp. The university has this, and we show numbers and we show the perspectives for their future. This is an important part of the program. So this, convincing the families and the students themselves that this is a passport for the future. The second part, of course, is made by the teachers, the professors themselves, the social assistants, the previous students that came from the program. So the environment of the university itself is really, really rich, and they immediately recognize this perspective. So regarding the dropout rates, of course there are dropouts. There are people that don't adapt. There are people that don't manage to fill the gaps of their education. But usually it's similar to any other course. It's about 20-25% of the students after these 2-year programs that finally are dropouts. But we try to recognize that the university is really a door, a passport for their future, and try to show them every time. So one of the disciplines that we have in ProFIS is the seminars about professions. So we invite people to talk about different professions and say the perspectives of the work and so on. And also the extra thing that we do from the beginning is to engage them in a project, in a research project in any place. So they already, understand how the university works and so on. And in fact, it's working, but I understand this problem of social capital. Now we have more diversity, and this brings this perspective together. So now, as I mentioned before, we have a good quantity of different races. We have indigenous people. We have a more diversity into the university that we were able to build, and this also brings the richness of the environment of the university. And this is, in my opinion, what is important. Everyone asks me, why are we looking for that? We are a public university, and exactly because we are a public university and we are supported by the money from taxes from everyone. So the university should reflect the society. And this is what we are looking in this kind of program and this kind of project of diversity in higher education.
May I push this question, and then Dara will ask your question. Look, this is a very practical question. You mentioned very interesting the course on professions. I immediately think, yes, these kids even don't know what medical doctors do or what engineers do, etc. Fine. Anything else for other universities to learn what if they have this ambition, and now many European universities want to work with migrants and they don't know what to do. And so what else could be done, should be included, let's say, in the this curriculum?
Okay. Look, Isaac, this is something that I really was disappointed by the program, because I immediately thought, well, the program was finally well designed. It's only 120 students per cohort, so it's very small. It's a classroom, essentially. I thought that this will be reproduced there in every public university in Brazil, but no one reproduced it. So although it has some impact and it went to the media and so on, nobody did it. Why? Because we are, in university, we are conservative. We don't want changes. It took me 2 years of discussions within the university, going to every school and discussing the program. It was a kind of personal thing that you have to pursue, and therefore it's very, very hard to make even this small change in the traditional way the universities work. So my personal opinion on that is that there should be an effort in order to do something different. And the idea is, even if it's small, it can make a difference. In this case, as you mentioned before, we have 9 million students in higher education in Brazil. It's only 120 students per year. It's not so much, but if every university makes something, we are able to change. And of course, this triggered other initiatives at the university that were also very interesting. So my suggestion will be, start small, a pilot program, a very small one that can make a difference.
Dara, please.
I actually want to ask a question pertaining to that, but in a couple of minutes when we are closer to the end of the webinar. But for now, a question about, well, for our listeners, first of all, the context. So we are discussing teaching and learning and student selection and student access, but University of Campinas is special in the higher education landscape of Brazil because it's not just research intensive, it's extremely research intensive. Half of its students are graduate students, and it produces more patents than any other academic institution in Brazil. So with that being said, Marcelo, what would be the approximate share of ProFIS students going into graduate programs following undergraduate education as compared to students who are outside of the program?
Well, they go, and we have already, as the program is from the first cohort was 2010. So we have many students already that finished the traditional path. They went to graduate courses, master, and after they finish the ProFIS, they mix in terms of grades and performance with any students from the university. So they are as usual students. So there are many students that they are doing the master, doctorate. We had the chance. That's a very interesting thing from a perspective of study. We are following longitudinally these students from the first year. So we have now 12 years of data from different cohorts, and we are following each single student of each single cohort. So at the end of 15, 20 years, we will have a very interesting study, longitudinal study, to show about the success of the program. And of course, we are following these students, and we know that many of them are already in the work market, or they are following the master or doctorate students. So they are still going on, and very well.
Which takes me to the next question. And so my first question was actually the reason for this question. How does diversity, increased diversity that you're getting because of the ProFIS program, affecting the university's research identity?
You mean the diversity? Of course, it's the diversity. It started in 2000. Let me give you a little bit of a chronology. Mm-hmm. It started in 2010, and just by doing these geographical quotas, we managed mm-hmm. to have also racial quotas. And I mean, the racial percentage of in Brazil of students of Black origin in Brazil. Let me give you some numbers. When I started this program in 2010, we had only 18% of students that were self-declared Black or mulattoes. That means half of the Brazilian population in the state of São Paulo. We have 42% of the population which are Black or mulatto here in São Paulo. So just by using this in ProFIS, we managed to get this 42%, but just for the ProFIS. The second step was when I started the rectorship in 2017, we started the quota system for Black and mixed race Brazilians. And now we have all the students that get into the university in this quota system. We have half of the students, almost half of the students being Black and mixed race. And finally, as I mentioned before, we started at the indigenous test. So that now I will say that we really, really represent now the Brazilian population in a better way than we are still an elite of the population, but it's more representative from the society as a whole. And this, I am sure that there are many studies showing that the diversity of the university is absolutely fundamental to have a rich environment and the oxygen of ideas and new perspectives for university students and professors and for the university community as a whole.
Well, as much as we would like sometimes to think otherwise, research is personal, and I guess the more personal perspectives you have on knowledge creation, the better the outcome will be. Isaac, I do have one more question, and I'm anxious to ask it, but I can yield to you if you insist.
Go ahead. Quick question, quick answer. We have 3 more minutes.
That was gracious. So, Marcelo, you're not the first person we're hearing this from. You said that it's a personal pursuit to make something happen at a university, especially something that changes the way the university functions. So what advice would you give to someone who has that idea and they're trying to implement it and they're almost giving up, but they must continue because what they have in mind simply must be implemented?
Well, it's very hard, depends on the context, but I would say that persistence, of course, you have to persist and you can lose some battles, but you can win the final, pursuit of a good project. So it's important to convince, to work, to talk, to hear, and to adapt as well. So of course, the final shape of the program was not exactly what we designed at the beginning. We heard a lot of ideas and we try to implement in order to bring more people into the boat. So this is basically the idea. Hear a lot, use the ideas of the others in order to bring everyone into the project. So this is something that I would suggest.
Okay, so it's lupaitis skalu, as we say in Ukrainian situation, which means kind of grind this rock or hit this rock, and at some point it will crack.
May I make just one comment? It's not a question. It's very interesting. You know, Marcela and Dara, that I studied Soviet education. And I studied positive discrimination, affirmative actions, etc. And it's really interesting to see two big different policies. One is to have quotas in existing programs. And another, which, by the way, was employed very much after, it's interesting that after communists in first post-revolutionary time in Soviet Union realized that these quotas for students from working class really do not help these students because they drop out, they don't know what to do. They introduced this, what they called workers' faculty or workers' year, when they trained these students from working class families to be good students. Surprisingly, there are not very still quotas are more popular, simple quotas, than these additional remedial years. So thank you. It's very important, I guess, to see the example of alternative solution.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Dara?
The pleasure is truly all ours. Thank you so much for coming. And that is such a necessary perspective that was high time to add. Anna, could we have the slide about, yes. Okay, so next time, well, to some extent, we are continuing the conversation about access, but we are also giving it a leadership twist. We'll be talking about African Leadership University, which has tasked itself literally with preparing the next generation, the core of the next generation of African leaders. They are extremely ambitious, very high scale, very experimental, and their spirit is truly entrepreneurial. So I hope to see everybody there. We'll be talking to the CEO, which is an interesting aspect in itself, not to the president. They don't have the position of the president yet, but the CEO of the university, Veda Sunasi. And everybody have a great evening, whoever is in this hemisphere. Marcelo, have a wonderful day ahead. And thank you for coming again.